This Week in Habsland. I am Jordan, and making his triumphant return is Brian, and we are here to discuss our beloved Montreal Canadiens after a wacky week in the NHL. You can find us on social media at Habsland Pod. So, Brian, welcome back. We are basically doing the episode we wanted to do last week, which was 5 burning questions at the quarter point. Now, it's not quite at the quarter point, but I actually do find it kind of better timing to do it this week rather than last, where they are ending a pretty big rough stretch with a surprising win, maybe not surprising, against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I feel like if we had had this type of this more big picture season wide discussion at that point, that Leafs win would have been kind of a like, is this the outlier? So it actually kind of works out that they got a couple days off and then had one nice win, one like incredibly good win against the Vegas Golden Knights. Utah we can come around to. And then Saturday afternoon against never mind. So anyways, point is, I feel like maybe there was a bit of a leveling off here. So I'll jump right into our first of 5 burning questions. And it is, I think, a good starting point. We can talk about the week that was, and we can also just go a bit broader as well. Have the Montreal Canadiens settled into who we thought they were?
So I don't think the team as a whole has. I do think that certain players have definitely settled into who they are. Caulfield, for example, has been beyond a lethal sniper this season. Suzuki has been super creative, productive offensively. He's also managing the game really well. That duo knows who they are. Slaf and Demidov very rapidly now are discovering who they are as another offensive duo. Matheson and Dobson are often great, but I think like for a team to have settled into where they are, they can't be inconsistent like this. And inconsistency is everywhere in the Montreal Canadiens game right now. Inconsistency of personnel, first of all. Line, Gooley, Doc, Newhook, all out with injuries long term. That's a major, major top 6 forward disruption, and also a big hole on defense. They've got inconsistent scoring, inconsistent defending, and perhaps the most inconsistent goaltending we've seen since the rebuild started. So no, I don't think the team as a whole has settled into who they are. Most of the lines and pairings haven't even settled in yet. And I guess the silver lining is that this is the youngest team in the NHL. So these inconsistencies, it's totally normal. They're completely understandable, right? It's not like, what? Wait, how is this possible? They have so many veterans. No, it's not that. It's a team of kids. Of course, they're going to be inconsistent. So I think that we just sort of have to shift philosophy here, where maybe this season is more about a few players becoming top-end versions of themselves and building consistent lines and pairings that will run into next season and beyond. It's more about the building process, maybe individually and in small little blocks, than it is about the entire team coming together. Because we saw what a actual contender looks like on Saturday night. The Colorado Avalanche are real. They are the real deal. And we are so far from that to say that we've settled in, like if we were to answer yes to this question, I'd be afraid of what we're settling into.
Okay, so maybe we just have a different perception of what settling in means. Like they are the team we thought they would be, which would be consistently inconsistent. A young team, like they are who we thought they were, of a mid-90s point team. Well, I'm not saying wild card because that's going to answer our 5th question when we get to it, but they were not the 8-3 team from October. They were never going to be that good. I think they eventually went to 9-3, right? When they beat Ottawa on the 1st of November, 5-3 in November, the treacherous November that we were anticipating. They passed it with what, like a C plus maybe, considering they passed, sure, barely.
This
but
week
they
allowed them. They crammed at the last second, and they did 2 like 8-hour study days and passed.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. So to me, my answer is, yeah, kind of. They have settled into who they are, not in terms of their final product, but maybe in terms of who they are most likely going to be for this 82 game season. Plus, we're hoping a bit of a playoff run.
Okay.
So like 3-6-1 now against playoff teams. And there's one individual on the hockey subreddit who is a Boston Bruins fan, who loves to point out the Montreal Canadiens record against playoff teams from last year, despite how flawed that metric is. The Canadiens picked up 2 W's recently. They beat the Leafs, and then they beat the Golden Knights, obviously. So it's 3-6-1. So hopefully that stat goes away slowly. It's still not great, 3-6-1, but it also doesn't include stuff like they've beaten Utah both times this season. Utah have looked quite decent.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe another way to look at this question, other than some individual play, which you correctly identified, like Caulfield is, he is who we think he is. He's gotten a little bit better. Dobson and Matheson has been not necessarily a revelation, because that would maybe Matheson's been the revelation part and Dobson has been as advertised.
Yeah.
Lane Hudson's been really good. We're going to get to Demidov, I'm sure, at some point. So from an individual standpoint, okay, there's been some really nice play. Taking that out of the equation, how much different are they really from last season's 91-point team? I don't see consistent offensive generation. And I want to talk about the new first line in here as well. St. Louis is starting to overutilize, and you might have said he already has, some of the best players on the team. And there's been wicked inconsistency from the bottom pair of the defense. These are all things you could rewind the tape 12 months ago, 9 months ago.
Yep.
And I would be saying the same thing. You'd be saying the same thing. So, and maybe that's where this is where the question came from of, okay, 12 months later, sure, some individual players have gotten better. Matheson's having a much better season. Noah Dobson's certainly an upgrade over David Savard, and Suzuki and Caulfield, whether they've leveled up or at least maintained where they were at the end of last season, that's fine. It's still a great player. But outside of that, like, do you know where I'm getting at? Like, what has really changed?
I mean, the obvious one to me is goaltending. And you could call that individual players, so maybe it's a cop-out answer, but Montembeault has not been the same. Even Dobesh has not been the same. This is not the goalie that won 5 games in a row to start his career, And
yeah,
we saw a tremendous Montembeault game in Vegas, which I was beyond thrilled about, and then just super bummed when they let in the one goal to break the shutout really late in the game. I don't think it blemishes it so much as it's just like, man, that would have been nice for him to get a shutout, because he's working hard and he's finally gotten the results in this game. Not the shutout, but it was still a good game. But like, other than that performance and maybe a couple others over the past month, the goaltending has not been great. And that to me is a big difference. A difference from last year, difference from the year prior. Like, we've kind of gotten used to average to even above average at times goaltending behind a team that's completely inconsistent. And so this season, it seems like the team is pulling out wins in different ways than just, hey, we couldn't score that much, but we won 3-2 because our goalie was sick and he stopped 41 shots. There's many less of those games this year.
Okay, so your theory, and this touches on our third question, so we won't dive into it too much, is they are still essentially have the same output from a wins generation, points generation standpoint, despite the fact that the goaltending is unequivocally worse than it was last year, which means there's a delta somewhere else. If you're losing on one end, you're gaining otherwise. Other things have gotten better. So that is the evidence that, hey, they are certainly, whether they were middle of the pack last year in goaltending, let's say, and now they're bottom third, bottom quartile of the league, it means they have to have gotten better elsewhere, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that goes back to the individuals, the stars. That's goal Caulfield settling into sniping, his shot being disgusting. Once again, in that Vegas game, puck-sized hole, Cole finds it. No chance for Akira Schmidt, just over the shot, like, beautiful shot. That laser put him to second in the NHL with 13 even strength goals. Last year, he was tied for 15th with 27. He's on pace for well over 40 this season. Mm-hmm. So that's really impressive. And that's only even strength. That's really impressive. He then hit 2 posts on glorious chances after that goal. So like he's firing on all cylinders. Another individual I want to just talk about real fast, Slafkovsky is becoming a power forward to be dreaded. And that's a big change from last year. Or maybe not a big change, but like we saw glimpses of it, especially near the end of last year. And now we're seeing it a lot. He pushed Mitch Marner down at the Habs blue line in the second period of the Vegas game. And Mitch went down so it looked like Zdeno Chara pushed me from behind when I didn't have my legs bent. I was just standing up perfectly straight and I was holding an ice cream cone with both hands. Like, that's what it looked like. Slaf is hitting. He's winning puck battles. He's shielding the puck expertly. I love this Uri Slafkovsky. The guy who his prime objective, it's always to get the puck. But occasionally he can't get the puck in time and you're still standing there and boom. His focus, it's very much puck, goose. And the goose is Uri Slafkovsky body slamming you into boards and glass. and ice. So I love that. And then his line mate Demidov is really becoming an ozone threat much more consistently. He had the best revenge in the world after getting crushed late in the Utah game. He gets back up, does not retaliate physically, and he goes and scores the game-winning goal. That's the best revenge you can get. So I'm just kind of highlighting 3 forwards that I think are settling into what we hope they're becoming. So you went from a perspective of like, yeah, they're settling into something that's maybe mediocre is the wrong word, but not ideal, not the long-term goal. These 3 guys are starting to settle into the long-term goal for them. The sniper, the power forward, the unbelievable skilled playmaker.
Yeah, I mean, I can't push up against that. I'm going to talk about Slav a little bit later. I do want to mention, I think this is probably the right spot for it, the first line. You've talked about Cole Caulfield. I mentioned there, I think Suzuki in passing, maybe not explicitly, he's one of those guys whose ice time is ticking up and maybe a little bit too much, about a minute and a half more November versus October for Suzuki. And there's a truckload of back-to-backs in December. December is actually disgusting from a viewing standpoint. I feel so bad for the players, obviously, but it's just nothing but Saturday and Sunday back-to-backs. There's just it's terrible. On the first line, so it's 6 games in now, we've had Bolduc on the first line. Tell me if I'm wrong, Brian. I am seeing the pre-Slafkovsky, Caulfield, Suzuki first line of feast or famine, that they're creating chances here and there. The sustained offensive zone time, it ain't there anymore. Now, Zach Bolduc, bit of a revival the past week and a half, these last 2 weeks. And you love to see that because you needed to get him going with Newhook out with, Doc out with line. You needed Zach Bolduc to step up again, and he has. So credit to him. But again, I'm removing myself from the individual part of it. That first line is nowhere near as dominant anymore these last 2 weeks. And I find that obviously concerning.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, from Bolduc's perspective, you're right to point out he's been playing really well. They're just not the same type of dude. Him and Uri are different players. And Uri's puck shielding, as I was talking about before, and abilities to keep the puck in the zone and prolong offensive attacks on the cycle. But Bolduc just that's not in his repertoire as much. He can do it. It's just not his prime thing the way it is Slafkovsky's. So it's a synergy issue. It's a chemistry issue where they had the best type of player with them previously. And now, yes, it is looking like it was in the past where they have this imperfect solution to the first line. It's been Newhook in the past, and at times it was Doc, and the Doc one actually worked at times and then didn't. And so, yeah, we are kind of re-entering another phase of Suzuki and Caulfield as a duo who happen to have this guy with them. And that leads to inconsistent offensive play, especially on the cycle. They're still getting a lot of rush chances because Bolduc is actually great at producing those and at attempting to finish those. He's got a good shot. So at least eye test wise, I've liked the amount of rush chances they're getting. But you're right, sustained offense just is not there anymore. So very clearly, Marty is sacrificing the amazing first line to get 2 decent top 6 lines. Is that working for the second line? I think somewhat. Not too bad. But my question to you, is it worth it? Is it worth taking apart one of the best lines in hockey to have 2 somewhat okay top 6 lines?
Okay, so we're getting to what is going to be the defining question of the front office's approach. I should just say front office management coaching approach for the season. Do you care? How much do you care about this season? And we have a question later on that's going to deal with that. How much does this specific season matter versus how much seasons 2 through 6 from now, 2027 through 2031 matter? Because if your answer is the former, then I think it's a mistake what they're doing. If the answer is the latter of let's balance it out, let's give Slaf his own line, let's keep Demidov separate from the big guys, let's find a different guy. And you mentioned Kirby Doc, and I wonder if that comes back on the table given the newfound trust. Right. I mean, not newfound trust in Joe Veleno, that's clearly been there. But there's a new Evans line that we're going to get to that I kind of like. And if you keep the Kapanen line together, all of a sudden there's a Kirby Doc spot when he comes healthy again on that wing that could open up again. And maybe that solves some of the possession things. So it comes down to that. And that's the big question, I think, that a lot of people are starting to ask of is there an opportunity this year to do something? And we'll tackle that in a bit. So we can kind of move on to our next question. But I think that's where it is. It's how much do you care about game to game success, and how much do you care about let's still this team has been so good about thinking 2, 3, 5 years ahead for the past couple years. This is the first season where everyone is kind of looking around and saying, what about now? Not like, let's win a cup now, but like, what about like just win more games now? Where that wasn't necessarily the plan, other than the famous Suzuki to management at the trade deadline last year, which truthfully, like the opportunity cost there was nothing. Like, what were we going to get? Like a second or a third round pick for Armia or Dvorak? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Truthfully, it's now. This is the first, like, should we be doing a little bit more? That's where I think we got to it. So if you're okay, this conversation is going to trickle out in other spots.
Yeah.
Let's go to question 2, because we've buried a bit of the lead on what I think was, look, they played well. They had 2 big wins. We're ignoring the Colorado game for as long as we can, although I do have a rant on it, which I'm sure you know what it is.
Yeah, I can guess.
Kind of hidden in here is Mike Matheson signing his contract extension.
Yes.
5 years, $6 million a year. We can get into the details on the no move and the signing bonus in a second. So the question is, and we can talk about Matheson's contract individually, but the question is, with Matheson signed now through 2030, how do you view the Habs defensive core over the next few years, given that Dobson, Hudson, Gooley, Matheson now all signed through 2030?
So your top 4 is about $30 million over the next several seasons. $29.9 million to be exact. That's about $7.5 million on average. So in terms of the personnel, I like this top 4 quite a bit. It's Dobson at 9.5. It's Hudson at 8.85. Matheson now at 6. Congratulations, buddy. That's awesome. And then Gooley at a little over 5.5. That's what that gets you. So what I wanted to look at here, it like sort of just change the focus or the context here, is all 4 of our top D men are very well paid for what they do. Potentially overpaid. Let's have that discussion. Are they? As compared to the average of the NHL. And I want to know, like, should they be? Because Dobson, at least next year, so 26-27, Dobson is going to be 7th overall in salary among defensemen. That's an elite or top end first defenseman. Hudson is 18th. So that's a mid-range first defenseman. Matheson is 60th. So that's like, either a pretty low paid second or a very high paid third. And then same thing for Gooley, who's 68th in AAV among D-men next year. So you've got basically 2 1Ds and then 2 well-paid 3Ds instead of a 1, 2, 3, 4, just in terms of the structure. So like, does that make sense? Should they be paid this way? Are all the contracts fair value? Is this wise in terms of the way that you're balancing the salary cap?
So I think, like, I like the way you kind of laid it out there, where it's 2 guys paid in the 8th to 20th highest paid defenseman, and then 2 guys hovering at the basically high end second pairing guys. The fact that this is essentially the first or second year of all these contracts, to me, is great. Like,
Right.
You would anticipate it's going to be on the higher end of that scale by, let's just add 2 more years, and you have a McCarr contract, you have a Hughes contract come in.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Noah Dobson's 15th by year 3 or year 4 of his contract. So I think the sliding scale of it, like, sure, for next season, it's probably not overpay, but relative to other contracts in the league, it'll be slightly higher than we would prefer. However, for the balance of these 5 years, I think it's totally fine. I know you do too, but I think it's a fair way of looking at it. Like, next year, yeah, they're spending quite a bit of money on those top 4 guys. Now, luckily, the bottom pair is going to be super cheap because ain't nobody playing that Marty trusts, so no one's getting any value.
Yeah.
So you just add 2 more million, and that's the whole defensive core is $32 million. So
now you say that, but there is also potential for Reinbacher coming back healthy, looking great as early as next season, joins the top 4, and suddenly Matheson is the guy on the third pair making 6. There's a world where that's possible. I don't think it's likely. Let's be clear. I don't think it's likely.
No.
I think Reinbacher will need some time, but
Mike Matheson has been the number 1 defenseman on this team for 4 years. I don't think he's going to be a third pairing guy next season.
Very fair.
So,
Very fair.
Okay, so let's dive into like the rest of the guys, because that's, it's okay. We got 4, and this is, we were kind of in a roundabout way mentioned it earlier. Like, okay, what are the other 2 guys doing? And it can be this year and it can be next year. And I think it's very important to have this conversation now, or at least it's well timed, because Adam Engstrom made his NHL debut.
Yes.
And we've gotten 2 Engstrom games now. Now the second one wasn't really supposed to happen. Jaden Struble, I think, took warm up, was a little banged up. They didn't play him against the Avalanche on Saturday afternoon. So a bit of grain of salt in there, but we got a couple Engstrom games. We got 25 minutes to watch him on the ice in the NHL. Engstrom, Jack-Eye, Struble, Reinbacher, Carrier. Let's not forget about Alex Carrier. My bad on that one. So I kind of wanted to I know we're bearing the lead on the Matheson stuff, but like
We'll
truthfully,
I want to talk about him. Yeah.
great value, good job, everyone's happy. Okay, so I'm just gonna. I think I'm ready to say after 3+ years and almost 200 games in the NHL, I think I'm done with the Arbor Jack-Eye experiment.
Wow, done with.
Yeah, I think I'm. Listen, especially with the way that Marty's deployed him the past season plus. So it's not all on Arbor, truthfully. And look, this year he's playing 11 minutes a game. I feel like I'm not getting the full Arbor Jack-Eye experience. And I like how much of this is just a negative feedback loop of like, he doesn't feel like he can play the way he wants to, because truthfully, the way he wants to play is probably a little bit too reckless. I don't even know if reckless is the right word. Like he definitely gets a worse whistle. He's closing in on the galley whistle. Truthfully,
Yeah, he is
of his own for no apparent reason. By the way, not no apparent reason, for no good reason. Like it's not like this is a reputation earned. Gallagher, yeah, let's be honest. The reputation was kind of earned after the first 5 year. After that, the reputation just outpaced what he's actually doing on the ice. Jack-Eye, I don't get it why he has such a bad whistle, but whatever. I feel like he hasn't been the guy we thought he could be after that first year or so. Remember, he was putting up points too in that rookie season. And there was an opportunity for a moment of like, hey man, like power play 2, big slap shot, getting him 15 minutes a night, hitting everything that moves, maybe score 7 to 10 goals, 12 goals. And I feel like that player has disappeared completely. And I don't know if he's scared to like think too much other than like, let me be in the right spot defensively. And because of that, he's kind of, look, I know I'm saying this after, what did he have, 9 hits against Colorado? Like I recognize what I'm saying, but overall, I feel like there's just, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze anymore. And not even that they're like squeezing it that much. They're kind of saying like, you're playing 11 minutes a night. You're going to be rotated in and out. Especially like once Cooley comes back. Yeah. Like I don't think he's one of the 6 guys being dressed. And then like, we can talk about Engstrom in a minute, but like Engstrom being on the board now in a very real way also just threatens his ice time. So am I being a little bit too harsh with that, or is it?
No, I think that's perfectly reasonable, man. And you even pulled back a bit when you said reckless and you kind of corrected yourself. I think reckless might actually be a very good term for it, because reckless doesn't only refer to his physical play and penalty taking and lack of discipline. It also refers to, we wanted him to, that 10 goal thing that you said, we wanted him to be offensively engaged. And early on in his career, we saw some risk taking, and we didn't love that, but at times it worked and it was fun, and he would go in with the slap shot and blast it in, and that's great. And what if he misses the net? Well, then it's a 3-on-1 the other way. So like that recklessness is mostly gone from his game. We're not seeing that as much. But you are right to point out that he can't play as physically as he wants to because of that whistle. That being said, it's not only the physicality, it's the fact that he gets beat and then uses the stick. And then the stick gets in someone's hands or in someone's feet, and it's a stick infraction. It's not even like he's boarding people every time he's getting a penalty. He has done that and other types of physical penalties. But a lot of the time it's just like, man, that guy beat me. He's a better forward than I am a defenseman, so I gotta make sure he doesn't score now. Penalty kill incoming.
I have 2 questions for you on Jack-Eye.
Sure.
One is, I'll ask the first one. You can answer that one. Do you think Marty is harsher on Jack-Eye than any other player in the lineup?
Than any other player? Yes. I think so. Maybe Dobesh.
Okay, sure.
Maybe
like
Dobesh.
the
There's an argument for that, but I think
guys,
it's Jack-Eye without a shadow of a doubt.
And so why?
So the way that this Canadiens team operates is that, a prime example of it against the Avalanche. We get tons of chances. We don't bury them. So we need to be very opportunistic with the way that we score, and we need to be like beyond strong defensively. So like a wall defensively, or else a team like that is just going to, score 7 goals on you. You know, they had scored 4 before we got 1. So if the defense breaks down even a little bit, with the way the goaltending is especially, this team cannot win hockey games. So he's basically putting in the doghouse his least effective defenseman. What's wrong with that? Like it's complete. I think it's very rational, actually, what he's doing. We can dislike it because we like Arbor. I personally don't dislike it, but I know a lot of fans do, because they like Arbor Jack-Eye. They want to see more of him. They want to see him be physical and, take the shackles off, man, hit somebody, which he did against the Avalanche. But defensively, it just doesn't work sometimes, most of the time.
Okay, then second question that I've seen posited here and there because I don't know if it's working out with him as a bottom pairing guy on this team. I mean, already like he's been the third pairing guy on a 90-point team last year. This year, 6-7. And again, the Engstrom thing is, I recognize I've been like very pro Engstrom for like 2.5 years now. So it's a lot of selection and confirmation bias on my end. But even then, when everyone's healthy, he's still battling Struble for that last spot, even absent Adam Engstrom. Do you ever consider, this would probably have to be an off-season thing, going to Arbor and saying, you ever tried left wing?
No, not anymore, because his brother's a left winger.
All right, play him on his offside.
So I'm going to answer your question with another question. Does Florian make Arbor expendable?
See, I hate that. Isn't
that the worst?
I like the fact that they're both on. That's what also makes me feel really bad about this take. Like the fact that they're both now on the team at the same time, and who knows how long Flo stays with the team with Sammy Bled just getting picked up on waivers, and guys are going to get healthy, and like Flo's going to get sent down at some point. You would think,
sure.
Especially the Texier signing, I think, kind of cements that.
Yeah,
I feel bad that that's the case. I don't know if expendables, right? Like I don't think like Flo can just take in the La Belle et Le Boeuf sponsorship deal that Arbor has. Like that'd be kind of mean. Yeah,
But talking in terms of enforcing,
sure, it might be more effective at it, and he might have because he's not like, I mean, Florian Jacquet is a big dude, but he's not 6'5", 230 the way Arbor is. He's a smaller guy comparatively, so right. So maybe that way he doesn't get that super duper tough, borderline unfair whistle that Arbor gets. Arbor gets close to someone in a scrum, and there's a referee on him immediately pulling him out of it. Where you don't see that with Brad Marchand. You don't see that with Nikita Kucherov. You don't see that with any of the Kachucks.
Yeah.
Because they're normal-sized human beings, and that's not fair to Arbor Jacquet. The fact that he's a super huge dude and not elite, I think gets him that. It's the bad part of the Venn diagram, right? Like Victor Hedman's a gigantic dude. Shea Weber is a gigantic dude. They could get away with that because they're all-stars, because they're Hall of Famers.
Right. It's the same reason Rempe gets
exactly.
You know.
Yeah. It's those guys, and that's always going to be the case. They're like, hey, you're big, you're not a goon, but like, calm down, you're not that important, is kind of the referee's approach sometimes.
Right.
I noticed you haven't answered my question, though, to my
I did with another
forward.
question. I did with does Florian make him expendable? Obviously, that's a bit tongue-in-cheek, because like, what I like about Arbor, and my dad pointed this out to me yesterday, we were just chatting about like Arbor versus Florian, and he was like, yeah, it's good, you need an enforcer in the lineup, but it is nice to have him on the back end in front of your goaltender, protecting your goaltender, as opposed to just causing havoc in front of the other goaltender. Having both is nice, but if you're going to pick one, like, protect Monty and Dobesh and eventually Fowler, ideally. Yeah. So there's that too. What I like about the fact that it could be Florian over Arbor in that role is that Florian doesn't need to take up as much ice time, and if he messes up, it's not as bad as your defenseman messing up. The goal is not necessarily going in the back of your net as readily. So that's round 2 of me dodging your question. Sorry, ask it again.
That's okay. No. Well, look, let's wrap up and actually talk about Mike, Mr. Matheson, Mr. Pointe-Claire, Mr. West Island. Again,
I have a song for this.
We do?
I have a song. Yeah. You ready for Mike Matheson's new contract?
Yeah.
You may remember this from the musical Rent. These were the original lyrics, and then they went with something else for some reason. But 375,000 large all-dressed pizzas. That's how much $15 million can buy. It was 30, but Mike will lose half to taxes. If not, he'd be buying twice the pies. So those are the real numbers, by the way. $15 million can buy you 375,000 large all-dressed pizzas. Tax in at Gigi's, obviously a great pizza spot in Pointe-Claire, where Mike Matheson grew up. No idea if he's eaten there, but we have, and it's great. They are not a sponsor. We just like pizza.
We haven't really explicitly mentioned this. It's cool that there's 2 West Island kids on the team between him and Veleno.
Very cool.
They don't get the shine for reasons we all know, but it's been really nice. On Matheson, he came out and said it right away, like, yeah, I could have gotten more money. I know. He absolutely recognized it. Of course. But like we had the conversation 4 weeks ago, and we're like, he's gonna take a discount. The real question is, how are they going to structure that discount? And I think, truthfully, it was better than we were talking 7 years or $7 million. That was our discussion. Kent Hughes heard that again. Kent, confirmed listener of the podcast, and was like, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
And that's how they got 5 years by $6 million. Some small details on it. First 3 years, no move. I think that's part of the like, hey, I'm going to take a discount. I am not going anywhere for the first 3 seasons, and you can't touch me.
Yeah, totally fair too. And let's
Yeah.
keep him. There's no reason to move him before he's, in those last 2 years, 36, 37 years old.
Yeah. Year 4, 14 team, no trade clause. Year 5, I think it's just 5 teams. It is also buyout proof, where essentially in year 4 and 5, it's mostly signing bonus. So Mike got all the details. When you're conceding that much in terms of AAV in total dollars and years, like we're assuming he conceded somewhere between 10 and $15 million overall in terms of contract value.
Yep.
When you're conceding that, you get basically everything you want outside of that. So we got structure. He's getting paid up front. He's getting a lot of signing bonus. He's getting no move for the first 3 years. Well done to a guy who a lot of people in years 2 and 3 were saying, get him out of here. He's in the way. And what did you and I say? We said, hey, we're not having the Mike Matheson trade discussion until the expiring year of his contract. And I'm happy we didn't, because let us be a bit more patient, and we waited it out. The arrival of Noah Dobson, like I'm wondering how much Dobson is asking for a cut of this new contract. I'm saying, hey man, if it wasn't for me, no, I'm kidding. So yeah, I mean, it's great. It's cool to have a local guy on the team. And hopefully, he's been in a big role. It's 4th year. He's an alternate captain for, I think it's 3 years now as an alternate captain. And he's going to be around for, we would presume, at least the next 3 seasons. So that would get him through 7 years on the contract, and maybe he finishes out the contract. In which case he will have had to be one of the longest tenured Quebec-born Montreal Canadiens of the past 30, 40 years.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't considered that yet. So off the top of my head, I'm not going to be able to compare
like post-Enfus, post-Roy, post-Carbonneau. Like he's probably going to pass David Desharnais. He would be up there. Drouin probably has more total games still at this point. This is completely off the top of my head. Stéphane Quintal, maybe. Garon didn't play enough. Theo obviously is the big one, but goalies are weird, so they don't play all the time.
Yeah,
he'll make his way up there. I mean, Ribeiro didn't play that long, so I'm certainly forgetting an obvious player or two in terms of long tenured, but it's super cool. I think it's nice to have this element in, and have a bilingual guy who's very comfortable speaking in either language. I think is very important as well going forward.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think every team around the league, like even forgetting the historic prominence of especially French-speaking Quebecois players on the Canadiens, but every team loves a hometown kid. Arizona would have killed for Matthews, and obviously that's a different player, but like just an example, like any team would love a hometown kid who wants to be there and plays well for the team. So we discussed it as a whole, the 4 guys, the amount of money they're making, where they are in terms of defensemen next year in terms of their AAV, tied for 60th among NHL defensemen in salary for next season, 26-27. You could look at that like he's an overpaid third defenseman, right? We talked about that a little bit. Dobson, Hudson being 1-2 in AAV. So on the Habs, he'll be paid like he's the third, which I think kind of makes perfect sense. We've pointed this out before, but I'll say it again. Mike Matheson leads the Habs in time on ice by a pretty large margin, nearly 25 minutes. And that's without being on either power play unit. He's becoming a solid penalty kill defender. And at 5-on-5, the synergy he and Dobson have allows for just a ton of smooth transition hockey that gives the Habs skilled forwards some rush chances, which is great. I thought he was very good versus Vegas, and then he was appropriately bad, as pretty much everyone was, against the Nordiques on Saturday. The Nordiques, you say? Yes, they're back, but only long enough to shit kick the Habs into oblivion.
Okay, let's just do the Nordiques thing right now, and then we can move on to our next question, because we've went long on this one, surprisingly. In 2019, the Washington Nationals wore the Montreal Expos jersey, and I was livid. This is a team, a franchise, that ripped the soul out of one city and dragged it to another, and then 14 years later says, yeah, we're going to honor them and wear their jersey, and it's a throwback thing, and it's cool, and it's part of our history.
And more importantly, it's a way for them to sell those jerseys, and they make the proceeds. Sorry, continue.
So let me be very clear. These are different franchises. These are different teams. I guarantee you, no one in Washington is like, man, I love those Andre Dawson years. Isn't it great Vladimir Guerrero Sr. was on our team? That was awesome. No, they're different franchises. They're completely separate entities. So when it's been 30 years and I know they wore the Nordiques jerseys once upon a time at I think it was a preseason game actually in Quebec City. When the Avalanche are wearing those Nordique jerseys, to me, it's just like they're reappropriating that culture, that history onto their own. Like there's all these fleurs de lis everywhere. Like, do people in Denver even know what that is and what that stands for?
No, probably not.
So it bothered me a lot that they wore it. I hated that they're wearing it like 7 times this year. And you're right. It's all money. That's all that it is. It's a sick jersey. but it deserves to stay in Quebec City. It should not be worn by anyone else. It's retired as far as I know. Until the Nordiques, if the Nordiques ever come back, then that jersey can be worn again. Like, what does that mean? Like, if there is a Nordiques team in the future, are they allowed to wear that jersey? Like, how does that work? I find it kind of idiotic. Look, even the fact that, like, what's Utah now, right? Utah is the former Winnipeg Jets. Are they allowed to wear the original Winnipeg Jet jerseys? Can they wear the Coyotes jerseys? Yeah. Is that going to be weird? If there's when there's a new Arizona team in 5 years, because Bettman loves expanding and he loves going back to Arizona, are the Mammoth going to be allowed to wear Coyotes jerseys? Are they going to wear the throwbacks? Like, I know the Whalers are also happening, right? The Hurricanes are wearing Whalers jerseys as well. Like, I don't like this. You, as a business, decided to rip that team out of that community, and now you're saying we're still going to use their colors, their emblem. I hate it. It's disgusting. Stop doing it.
Yeah, I think I agree, man. It's always a nice little time trip to see the fleur de lis on a hockey jersey, and then you think more deeply about what it actually says, and you're like, that's actually pretty gross. Before we move on, I'd like to do one other little tiny thing about Mike Matheson, if you're cool with that. I know we've spent a lot, but just quickly here. Mike Matheson has a little bit over 140 points currently as a Hab, 142, and is now 22nd in all-time points among Canadiens defensemen. Pretty good. Not too bad. It's a pretty extensive list there of very good defensemen, so not bad to be 22nd. He will likely pass a handful of very familiar Canadiens blue liners, Shea Weber, Craig Rivet, Sheldon Surrey. He'll probably pass all those guys this season to become 18th all-time. At the end of this 5-year deal, where will he be on the leaderboard?
He's not passing PK, who's 10th. That's what I feel comfortable in saying.
Interesting. Okay, so that's the one that's fascinating to me, and I will gladly make a case in a sec, but if you want to go deeper, I will.
It's about 130 points. So this is under the assumption that Mike Matheson will play, let's say he has no more than 450 more games as a Montreal Canadian. I don't think he's getting that many games. I think 300 is probably a closer approximation.
Okay.
He has to go a 40-point pace, essentially, from this point onwards to get to PK. You would presume eventually that ice time is going to go down. So I think I forget, someone's right behind PK at 11th. That's also a pretty, I think it's a pretty
Jeff
recent.
Petrie, 248, Subban's 278. So 248, definitely
that's
reachable,
the gap.
I think. Yeah.
That's the gap I thought. I was like, oh, okay, I think there's a pretty big jump from Petrie to Subban. So that's kind of where I saw him landing, in that 11 spot.
Yep. I think that's probably the correct answer. 11, maybe 12, somewhere around there in the 240s. The case that I'll try and make, maybe just because he's a hometown guy and I like him, Mike Matheson this season so far on pace for about 50 points. If we account for a regression, take away 10 points a year, and he plays all 5 years. So 10 points a year might be conservative an estimate, especially when you get into his 36 and 37-year-old season. And playing all 5 years, that's not necessarily going to happen, but we'd like it. 50 plus 40, 30, 20, 10, that's 150. I think that's a fairly standard regression, though, for a defenseman at his age. Averages out to about 30 points scored each year. If we remove the 15 he scored already this season, you add the 135, puts him at 277, a single point behind PK at 10th overall. So, like, if everything kind of goes right and he regresses normally and not drastically, he'll still be 1 point behind PK. So it would have to be pretty magical for him to pass him. All this to say, we could be very well witnessing a leaderboard level career from a hometown kid in 2030. Yeah. That'll be very exciting. Though this is all going to be moot because Dobson and Hudson will have passed PK a season or two prior. So they will kick out a couple top teners. And Matheson, sorry, buddy, you will be outside of the top 10.
Yeah, that was the other part. I was like, well, Hudson, how does he factor in here? Because Lane Hudson's closed again on 100 points already. So Hudson's going to pass Mike Matheson. And he kind of throws a wrench into that. So yeah, I'll be ranked somewhere between 10 and 14 probably. And to me, it's more like games played. Like, how many games can this guy who is, I mentioned a few weeks ago, like he gets the Florida too early, he gets the Pittsburgh too late, and he gets the Montreal right as the train's starting to leave the station of a rebuild. And he has made the decision, and he's seen enough over these 4 years, right? It's a two-way street. He has to agree to a contract where he sees like, okay, this is going to be worth it. Let me stick around here for a few more years, basically his last big payday, to like do something special. And I think a local kid winning a cup as an alternate captain, it's hard to beat that, really. So best of luck to Mike. Great contract, well earned. We have 3 more questions to go to. Shockingly, we've gone very long on our first 2 questions. Although I do think Some of these can be a bit shorter. So third question, Brian, and I will say, I know I wrote these questions. Very proud of myself, self-pat on the back here for my third question. Because you mentioned it earlier. We have been used to, especially like post Scotty Bowman, the Montreal Canadiens have essentially been an average to good team with incredible goaltending that has covered up a lot of warts. Obviously, we went from Patrick Roy, some in between years there with Jocelyn Thibault and Jeff Hackett, and then you move. Eventually, we make our way to Jose Theodore. Cristobal Huet for those few years was awesome, and then Halak into Price and Halak, and even post Price, like Jake Allen had a nice time, and then we talked about how great Samuel Montembeault was for a couple years. So usually, goaltending on the Montreal Canadiens hides a lot of warts over the past 20, 30, 40 years. However, Brian, so far this season, it has been the opposite. So let's look at it the other way around. What has the terrible goaltending over this past month or so hid, or I can even say the whole season? Like, what does it hid from that's actually a real net positive on the team? Usually it's the other way around. It's, oh my God, Carey Price is hiding the fact that we suck at X, Y, and Z. It's been the other way around the past 6 to 8 weeks. So what's actually been great that we're not talking about enough, because goaltending is like, yeah, but they lost 8-4.
Right. On Carey, just first of all, you said XYZ. It's more like A, B, C, D, E, F, like the whole alphabet were things that were bad in front of him. But the biggest thing for me that it's hiding is that the Canadiens are not giving up high danger scoring chances. They're not giving up a lot of medium. They're not even giving up a lot of low danger scoring chances. Jordan, overall, the Montreal Canadiens are not giving up that many chances on net. They just aren't. The eye test does not confirm that. I looked at this thing thinking like, I'll just check this, but I'm probably wrong. Oh, wait, no, it's actually true. 6th least high danger scoring chances in the NHL. 11th least medium danger. 8th least low danger. So overall, they're not giving up a lot, and the high dangers are the least of those. So that stuff that we were seeing last year and that I've even pointed out this year of, oh man, they left a guy open in the slot again, uncovered. It's still happening, but not as much as it used to be. But the thing is, the reason the eye test doesn't confirm this is because every time it happens, Monty's looking behind him at the puck that's rolling past the line.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that's why the stats and the eye test are different, is that every time someone's left open, the puck's in the back of your net, but it doesn't happen that often. It's just the other teams being very opportune.
Yeah, and we've mentioned over the past the whole season, really, the Habs are playing lower event hockey than they have in the past. And the numbers have reflected that, how they're being a bit more selective offensively with when they're shooting. And that is usually translating to higher quality chances, but it still means they're not taking as many shots. And then weirdly, in the same way, defensively, that has been reflected. And it's really too bad that this is the worst goaltending season that they've had since, or let's just not count 2022, because we just don't count that season as a season. But if you discount that, like even the year Price got hurt, Mike Condon was kind of decent, right? And if you continue to go all the way, I don't know how far you have to go back before you get a goalie season this bad. Do you go to the late 90s where you have a duo of Moog and Hackett? Maybe, I don't know. Or there's inconsistent Theo years at some point. I think 03 is a pretty bad year representative or comparatively to the 02 and 04 seasons he has. Certainly 02, right? 02 is the Hart Trophy season. Yeah, it's true. That's a great point. Like, it's perfect. It's because the goaltending is hiding the fact sometimes that like they're not giving up that many opportunities. And again, you're right. The eye test doesn't reflect that, but that's because Monty is 100 points on a save percentage, worse than league average on medium danger scoring chances or high danger scoring chances. And he's always been really bad at shots from distance, right? And I went over that last week in the mailbag where he's like 60 points below average on long distance shots. And that has translated. Also, Dobesh has struggled from a medium range as well. Like there's just been a lot of like, it's the poor goaltending has really hit the fact that they are able to sniff out plays before they get to shot generation standpoint. On my end, I will say the thing that's kind of been hidden here, and it's a little weird because we just talked about how bad the goaltending was. I think it's been kind of underreported how much this team is relying on rookies and how they are doing way more than they are expected to be doing. So obviously was it on Friday or I forget? Yeah, it was Friday, right? Where they dressed 6 rookies. Well, no, it would have been Wednesday actually, because that was a Dobesh game on Wednesday where they had Dobesh, Demidov, Kapanen. Those are the 3 big guys I want to talk about, but also Jared Davidson, Florian Jacki, and Adam Engstrom. Listen, last year they had 2 rookies, Emil Heineman and Lane Hudson. Year before that, just Jaden Struble. The year before that, they had like 14 rookies. I'll never forget the segment we did at the end of the year where we had to do a top 5 rookie ballot because it was just endless between Harvey Pinard and Harris and Barron and Kovacevic and Gouli and Xhekaj and Yuri Slafkovsky. It just went on and on and on. So I think specifically Demidov, Kapanen, Dobesh. The fact that these guys are like, we look at them now and being like, hey, you got to do something, man. You have to perform. Demidov has been as advertised. He has been great. He's on a 60-point pace, something like that. Really no notes on him. Oliver Kapanen, I am still curious how much of his offense, and I think at least half of it, if not more than half of his points come on either Demidov assists or Demidov goals. Now, those are interrelated, right? Like they both benefit from playing with each other, but just because we had the sample last year of Kapanen without Demidov and he had no offense. And certainly he's at age 22, he's going to get better than he was at age 21. So I have a little bit of doubt there, but we're seeing mostly defensively Kapanen start to make some good plays. He did get beat on the 2-2 goal. Like he's in the right spot. He lifts the stick, but then there's a secondary effort he doesn't make against Utah that leads to the game tying goal. But overall, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Oliver Kapanen. I think even from a face-off standpoint, he's doing quite well for a rookie. And then Jakub Dobesh has bounced back for the most part from that bad spell again. Like we're not really looking at that Avalanche game. The whole team after 2-0 imploded. A little bit Dobesh too, I will say. I always wonder if goalies would actually do this. And I noticed, I'm sure it's happened in the past, but Dobesh was actually doing it where the custom is when you freeze the puck, you hand it over to the linesman. In moments where the puck did not land directly in Jakub Dobesh's glove, he would leave it on the ice after that 2-0 goal where Anderson slides into Landeskog, who slides into Dobesh, and they let the goal in, and he's really pissed about it. I noticed several times after that moment, Dobesh wasn't picking up the puck. There was even one icing where he just chucks it down the ice too, instead of handing it over to them. Yeah, that's just monitoring that, just keeping note of that. But I think it's broadly how much these three guys are very much at the core of a team that's trying to make a playoff run. We're just not remembering like, hey, by the way, 2 guys in your top 6 are rookies, and the goalie who is now 1A probably, maybe, is also a rookie. And we're not mentioning that enough because of the cloud of the poor goaltending, which Dobesh has been a part of, but maybe obviously less so than Monty has. Yeah, that's kind of the part that I'm like, we just like blinking red lights. Hey, remember, there's a bunch of rookies on this team still.
Yeah, of course. And you're right to point out that the better goalie is a rookie in Dobesh. Monty is really the one who has struggled quite a bit. Quality starts wise, he's had 4 out of 13. Actually, no, he's only started 12 games, so that's a third. At least Dobesh has had more than half quality starts, close to 600 there. You asked a fascinating question that had me down a rabbit hole, Jordan. I was furiously looking at every goaltending tandem for the past certain amount of years. I'm not going to give it away yet, but you asked like, when was the most recent awful goaltending year? You said it more succinctly than that, but that's basically what you asked. 871 this year. When's the last time they had an 871 or worse?
2000. No, 1999.
15 years prior.
Oh,
those
wow.
years were actually decent. They were like 888, 896, decent, whatever. For that era, it was fine. 871 happened exactly 40 years ago on the nose in 85-86. That was Steve Penny, Doug Stotart, and Patrick Roy's first kind of full year with the Montreal Canadiens. And then the year before that, it was just Steve Penny and Doug Stotart, 867. So 40 and 41 years ago, last time they were this bad. You mentioned 2022 as like, we're not counting that year. Yeah, they were 888, like significantly better than this year.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is Jacob Fowler is going to make his NHL debut this year a bit to mirror that year from 40 years ago. Is that what we're doing?
Could very well be, my friend.
Okay. The other thing I just mentioned, I feel like I've said it a couple times, we're not going to stick on it, is Slaf. The elevation of Slaf's play. And you mentioned it towards the beginning of the episode. He's number 1 on the team in on ice shooting shot attempt percentage. So when he's on the ice, the team has the highest shot attempt percentage. Same goes for expected goal percentage. It's best on the team. He's second in high danger shot attempts. Again, for the team when he is on the ice, only to Ivan Demidov. Big shocker there. All the stats are pointing like up for Yuri Slafkovsky. We've talked about the puck luck. The friggin' offside review against Utah wanted to rip we need a rule. Like if it's been more than 10 seconds, beat it. I don't care anymore. Yeah. I hate it. Like that was such a perfect pass from Lane Hudson. Like when we were talking a few weeks ago of like, Hudson's not a threat from the point, right? He doesn't have the slap shot, although he scored a nice goal on, I think that was Saturday against the Avalanche. But what he can do is move laterally. And exactly what he does there is on the non-goal, which would have been the 3-2 goal. Suzuki gets it right back after, or the 3-3 goal, is Hudson he goes in closer to the top of the face-off circle. So all of a sudden, yeah, you have to mark your man. He's not 15 feet further back. And he just holds onto the puck for an extra half a second to slide the Utah forward a little bit out of the passing lane. So it's not to take a shot. It's just to open up the passing lane to Slav. Slav finished it. But there was an offside 34 seconds earlier. So I guess it doesn't count.
You're not going to like this, but I'm going to push back. Attention to detail, man. That's a lesson in attention to detail. Be onside. Look, it took about 70 minutes for them to determine it, but they determined he was offside. Like he has to tighten that up. That's all. That's all I'll say. You're rolling your eyes.
Here's the
I
thing.
think that's fair, but
I feel like you need to make that judgment in real time. If you're the team that's going to challenge it, you can do it like 5 times in a game. You just hit a button, say, hey, if there's a goal here, we'll have challenged it. You shouldn't have the luxury of 15, because the part of the thing is when you're in the zone for 20, 30 seconds, the guy upstairs can look at it for a whole minute and be like, wait, was offside. Like,
yeah,
that's not part of the game, man.
Yeah.
Like if 20 people on the ice didn't notice it, if no one on Utah was like, hey, that was offside, it takes one guy watching it for 45 seconds on an iPad. Anyways, I hate it. It's stupid, but let's move on.
Yeah, you mentioned the Hudson shot, by the way. That was sick. It did deflect, but it's nice to see him using that shot. I have a little thing about Hudson here that I'm not going to be able to fit elsewhere. So I just want to say, when Lane Hudson is in the offensive zone, it's like he's constantly looking in mirrors as he walks by them because he's always seeing passing lanes.
How long? Hold on. How long did it take you to write this?
That was spur of the moment. Not in this moment, but as I was prepping, I thought of passing lanes. I was like, oh, that's his name. Which, as a sidebar, Lane is such a killer nickname. Like, imagine his name was George or Ringo or something. No, let's say his name is John Hudson, and he's a puck-moving D-man who finds seams and passing lanes so well that his nickname becomes Lane Hudson. That's bad. That's a great origin story. And I don't care that it's not real. You heard it here first. Lane Hudson is his nickname. His real name. Oh, I said John. It's actually Paul Hudson. It's his real name.
This is why you come to this podcast, for this type of analysis.
That's right. Hard hitting.
Can't get this anywhere else. Okay, question 4. Brian, has Marty figured out the bottom 6? Finally, after us kind of complaining about it for weeks. A lot of movement. Jared Davidson, Florian Jacki, Alex Texier made his debut. Joe Veleno's kind of come back to life, at least relatively speaking. You got the mainstays of the vets, the age group of Anderson, Gallagher, Evans. Sammy Blais was picked up, but because of some weird thing in the CBA, they were able to send him, because I think they were the only team that made a claim on him through waivers. He was able to go back down to, or not able to go back, just able to go to Laval, but maybe you're expecting him to make his move back up. Okay, so tons of guys in and out of the lineup. Evans, Anderson, Texier has been together the last 2 games. And then Veleno, Florian Jacki, Brennan Gallagher has been the other line. As it stands, so Davidson's out. Would presume Davidson's going to go back to Laval. Has Marty unlocked something here?
I don't know. I think Florian helps big time just to get that physical presence, that forechecking. I don't know. I don't know that I buy into this bottom 6 as much.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about Florian, like, the timing might work out perfectly because he has a lot of the same attributes that both Gallagher and Anderson has. He's got like Anderson's size, and he's willing to go to the net like Gallagher is, and he'll fight like Anderson does, and he's physical, and like he's kind of an amalgamation of the 2 guys. So as those guys' contracts come to an end next year, maybe they get kind of naturally replaced progressively by Florian. Just a sidebar there. But like for in the interim, I don't know that he's figured it out that much. I actually didn't mind Florian with Evans and Anderson in the Utah game. I thought that was okay.
Yeah.
Just eye test wise. Like, I haven't looked at the advanced analytics. You could tell me that they were, 30% Corsi, and I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that tracks. But just eye test wise, I was like, okay, that kind of works.
So I think that line will be easier to figure out. And I think they're much closer to like unlocking it, I should say. Right now it's Evans, Anderson, Texier. You said maybe Jack. Yeah. I mean, they don't sign Alex Texier, and he doesn't sign with the Habs if they don't offer him a legit role on this team. So I presume he is that guy. That line, I feel like that might be where we land. Would you call it a third line or a fourth line? The other line to me is a disaster. But I think it has a proper game plan now.
Okay.
Now you have Jake Evans.
Right.
We know what he can do. He's responsible defensively. He will win you a lot of faceoffs, and he's great at the dump and chase. Josh Anderson can still do a straight, like he still has a speed on a straight line, which means he's perfect for throw the puck in, bang bodies.
The chaser.
Alex Texier is the same. He might actually be a little bit more talented than those other two guys at this stage of their careers. So I feel like I need more time. I need to see this team, this line play a little bit more. And that's 2 road games on a back-to-back with Vegas and Colorado. Suboptimal in terms of evaluation. But hey, I'm good there for now. The other line, the Veleno, Flo, Gallagher. So we have to mention, obviously, like Doc's coming back a month, maybe less.
Yeah.
Line A, end of January, that's its own wild card. And then Newhook is way out, probably. I don't want to stick on this too long because I do think, like, what are we doing with Brendan Gallagher? He still cares more than almost anyone else on the team. We saw it Saturday against the Avalanche. The team was starting to mail it in. It was very much like we've been on the road for 5-6 days and it's the third period and we're getting our butts kicked and we played last night in a different time zone. We know our flight's in 3 hours to make it back home to our families. There's a lot of that going on Saturday afternoon. I didn't see that with Brendan Gallagher. Now, that's always going to be there with Gally. Now, on the other side with Brendan Gallagher, he is playing barely 13 minutes a game at this point. The finishing has disappeared entirely.
Yeah.
And he just, in the defensive zone, like you can still see the mind processing, but the on ice speed itself is just, it's degraded year over year. Not that it was like world beater last year, but I think he was at least average last year, being responsible, being in the right spots.
Yeah.
It seems a bit more laborious for him. And I know you're the world's biggest Brendan Gallagher fan. How are we doing with this?
I am a huge Gally fan, but I also want to be realistic. And you're right to point out that he cares more than anybody. I just wonder if his body can do it anymore. I said at the beginning of the year that I was very afraid that last year was his swan song. He scored a bunch of goals. He was old school Gallagher again. What if that was the last flash before the career kind of tapers out? And we might, in fact, be seeing that. I hope that's not the case. I would love to see him have a great second half of the season and then play well next year through the last year of his contract. And then who knows in the future, who cares about that? But at least a year and a half of good Brendan Gallagher hockey. The mind is there, as you said. The body, I just don't think can keep up. So there's a stark difference between caring and the want to be there, which I wish he could share that with every Canadiens player. Like if everybody played with the heart that Gallagher has, we'd have the most heart in the entire universe in terms of a hockey team. But there's a stark difference between that and effectiveness. And I just don't believe in his effectiveness anymore. And like, I feel bad saying that, but at the same time, like that's what happens. That's what happens to athletes. You're good for a while and then father time takes you out. And it happens to everyone. Wayne Gretzky isn't still playing hockey. You know, Brett Hull isn't still scoring goals. It's just what happens. Yager's still playing. So he's the one guy who might beat father time.
Yeah.
Him and Sid the kid are the two. But I don't know, man. It's just it's sad, but I think we are witnessing the tapering out. The last little gas burning in this star.
Yeah, and I don't think he's in I don't think line mates of Veleno and Florian Jacki.
No, that's not helping him either. No.
Exactly. And that's the issue.
Yeah, that's a fair statement, actually. Like, he wasn't scoring goals with the guy he's very good with, which is Jake Evans, either. But I do think he was more effective at managing the game.
Yeah.
His brain shone through better when he was with Evans.
So the issue is, so let's presume my assumption of Evans, Anderson, Texier sticks.
Okay.
You have Newhook and Doc coming back in. Presuming Veleno, Jacki are out, Gally stays in the lineup. And I know I'm skipping over the line A part. Let's just ignore that for now. How do you what is that other line? I mentioned maybe Kirby Doc's the right guy to throw up there. And at that point it's Newhook with Gallagher and Bolduc as a third line. I'm starting to struggle a bit with what do you do with Brendan Gallagher, especially if you don't feel like you have a trustworthy. Then maybe it's, I don't know if you dare break up Kapanen and Demidov. Not that it's not that they've been world beaters, but they've had really good chemistry since game one of the preseason game that they played in Quebec City. I don't know if you want to break that up and they've throw Slav in there and it's been working, but the Galley stuff is there. I wanted to ask one more thing about the bottom six. We've mentioned Armia, how that might have been an oopsie of it's tough. You have to turn over the roster here and there and people always want the young guys and the change. And then you get a year like this year where it's okay, 2 of those guys from the bottom 6 that were super reliable last year are gone. And now we're seeing this kind of, they're paying out for it. I didn't mention Emil Heineman last time. He's the third. They lost 3 of their bottom 6. Right? Anderson, Gallagher, Evans still there. It was Dvorak with Gallagher and Anderson, and it was Jake Evans with Yoel Armia and Emil Heineman. Emil Heineman, part of the Noah Dobson trade, obviously with 2 first-round picks. Heineman has just been, he is, let's choose to be happy for him. He is becoming the player we thought he had a chance to be, even last year. I mentioned it when I talked about Slav like a month ago, of like, oh, can you be the 20 goal, 200 hit guy? And I think Emil Heineman, should he stay healthy and not go to Salt Lake City and try to cross the street, he might put up 25 and 250. Like he might hit that level of like, I think he has 10 goals this season after 20-ish games, and he's hitting everything that moves because he's Emil Heineman. We're understating that too, right? Like it's the trade is still worth it, obviously.
Of course. But you miss him. Yeah. You still miss him like crazy. No one in the bottom 6 is producing the way that he did. And you could also argue that like Gallagher's lack of production is the other factor in the bottom 6. But
it's like losing a 4th player, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the hitting, I do miss that. I do miss him running around and hitting everybody. I think he was like 3rd or 4th last year in hits on the Montreal Canadiens behind like Jack-Eye, Slafkovsky. I don't remember who the 3rd was. He might have been 3rd. Anyway, he had like 175 or something crazy. Like, and then he's going to eclipse that this year, eclipse his goals. So yeah, absolutely. I am very happy for Emil Heineman. I always liked him. I always thought like this is a fun player. You love a player that hits everything that moves, has a wicked shot, scores goals. Like that's fun. So I'm thrilled for him. And yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it for Dobson. But you do miss him. And so you gotta find ways to fill the bottom 6. So yeah, to go all the way back to your initial question, has Marty figured out the bottom 6?
No.
Not even close, man. Like this is
but you see why, right? You see why with this discussion.
Of course.
You start the problem off with like, you've lost half of your bottom 6, and Brendan Gallagher is taking maybe 2 steps down. And no young guy, again, we thought Kapanen would be a bottom 6 guy. He's not. And then you add the injuries on top of it. Like there's a reason for it, but like you did not shoot yourself in the foot, but like you knew maybe we didn't identify this was going to be as big of a deficit in the off season in training camp as it's actually been. Now, again, Anderson, maybe that's why, like in my head, it's last year was Evans, Armia, Heineman, right? Evans doing his thing, very strong, responsible defensively, win some faceoffs, knows how to play offensively. The skill's not overly there, but he's all right. He's fair. And then you had 2 bulldozers who can shoot in Armia and Heineman. That was your 4th line, which was ridiculous. Maybe like Anderson and Texier are not that, but is that a close enough approximation to the same tempo that 4th line played with? And maybe that's where I'm getting at with that working.
Yeah, tempo-wise, they're all north-south. Because Heineman, like we loved him, but he was very much north-south. Yeah, kind of similar. Anderson doesn't have a shot, but yeah, okay, that's probably pretty close, I'd say. I think that's fair.
And that doesn't solve your Veleno line problem, because that's
but like Veleno's not the answer, man. Sammy Blais is not the answer either. You mentioned him before, but like the Maple Leafs right now, their forward group is abysmal. They cannot figure anything out, and they let Sammy Blais go down and go through waivers. So like if he couldn't help them solve their beyond infuriating for them troubles with their forward group, I don't think it's solving the Canadiens one.
And I know you're saying Veleno's not part of the solution. Marty thinks he is.
Yeah, and I trust Marty.
It's the left-handedness too. Like, in credit to Marty, like seems to be a big component of, with everyone else other than Newhook being a righty, and Newhook now out of the lineup. Like your center, of your face-off takers, it's just Veleno on the left side. And so maybe we're seeing a bit more elevation there. Maybe that changes in the future. I don't know.
That's absolutely what it is. It's the same reason Dvorak got any ice time last year, another left-handed center. Also, why is he a good hockey player now? Why is he getting results elsewhere? It's so frustrating.
I don't want to get into, it's a can of worms. I don't want to go into the Dvorak discussion because this will get very dark very quickly. Last question. You mentioned one of them. With the Atlantic Division so wide open, Brian, are you at all interested in making the team better in the short term? We kind of mentioned this earlier. I think this is like the big overlying question strategically for the team this season of, honestly, other than Tampa Bay. Tampa's turned it around. I have no doubt Tampa's going to run away with the division at this point, get 109 points. And they're banged up and they're still slowly turning it around, but like they've turned it around enough and they're still a lot of runway for them to get better. So I have no doubt our preseason predictions of Tampa winning the division are coming through.
Yeah.
After that, man, someone has to finish second. Toronto's been, you just mentioned it, Toronto's been lifeless. Boston, maybe a bit of a surprise. And I talked about that last week in the mailbag of Boston kind of, maybe last year was the blip, not necessarily like the beginning of the end, but maybe last year was just the blip and they're still a decent playoff team. And then Ottawa's there, Florida, Brad Marchand doing everything he possibly can, but that team is just not good enough right now.
Yeah. Injuries are bad there.
And then there's the Habs, right?
Yeah.
And Detroit. No one to forget Detroit. Detroit had their hot start, but they've cooled off as well. Someone has to finish second and get home ice in the first round. So there's this opportunity, and this was a question we had from Carl last week of like, hey, like, do you go after a 2C this year? Like, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to pay? And my approach was like, man, considering the injuries they've gotten in the past 3 weeks, I think you kind of slow roll it rather than making an earlier trade, wait to the deadline, get more information, see what's the right decision to make, keep your options open. The one part I didn't talk about, and that's why I want to bring it up now, is, well, the Atlantic is, there's an opportunity in the Atlantic.
Sure.
Now, what does that opportunity really mean? We can get into that. But like second place in the Atlantic and therefore home ice in the first round is absolutely in play. Does that, Brian, make you change your approach? Because I think you're kind of like me of like, and you've said it in the past, right? Like they're going to have to stay a bit more patient. How young this team is, all the rookies, blah, blah, blah. Does this change anything? The Atlantic being the way it is?
I don't think it does for me. What is the goal? To make the playoffs or to win the cup? Obviously, it's the latter. So, and I don't mean this season, I mean in general for the Montreal Canadiens, for any sports team, it's to win the championship. So whatever gets you to there, whether it's now or later, that's always the goal. So I don't want to give up valuable futures for a short-term addition. The other thing, like, there's a flip side to this coin, which is a kind of silver lining, which is you can still make the postseason and have home ice advantage without giving up the farm. You're already, like, well, we're third right now, but like, goaltending improves by 10-15%, which they are absolutely capable of. The guys come back from their injuries healthy and strong, and they gain some chemistry. And suddenly this team is good enough to be in that position in the Atlantic without needing to go after whatever Crosby for a couple of years. Ryan O'Reilly's an interesting one because I think take advantage of Barry Trotz while he's still the GM there because it's not going to last long. So like, even if you did give up the farm, I don't think this team is the team yet for the championship. Like a while ago, at the beginning of the season, when we were really darn good, I claimed the Habs were close enough to having an open window that a short-term move for a 2C could be warranted. I think I've changed my mind on this. A mid to long-term move is the way to go. And in the absence of that, don't trade blue chippers. Just don't. Michael Hage, Żurawski, they should not be traded for a couple years of a veteran 2C.
So often in modern day science, advances are found when there is, there's the famous quote of necessity is the mother of invention. When resources get poured into solving one issue, that is a more short-term thing. It often unlocks new discoveries, new technologies. So my way to look at it is a bit more, okay, maybe you are making the team better in the short term. It doesn't mean that move has to be short term. So maybe you taking a look at it, hey, let's be buyers for this trade deadline and let's make a move because, hey, there's an opening here. It's not necessary that move only benefits you for 4 months and then you move on, right? You'll always, and that's why you have to correctly identify who you're trading for. And there's not many guys on expiring deals that are worth your time. But that's like to bring it back to the Kadri stuff I mentioned last week. Stamkos, I think, is cooked. So I don't think we have to talk about him. O'Reilly's much more interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know O'Reilly's contract situation. I can't imagine it's already expiring, but you might correct me.
I'll check
there.
right now as you're.
So like my point is that like, if you take advantage of this opportunity while other teams in your, that you're growing with, the Detroits, maybe the Philadelphias, the Ottawas for sure. If they're saying, we're going to sit back, we're going to wait a bit. If you take it, like maybe that creates an inefficiency in the market and that there's more availability, especially in the East. The East is kind of desolate right now. I know the Metro's kicked the Habs ass this year. Weirdly enough, I think the Habs are like 0-4-2 against the Metro. But if you can just like, so my point is, I think there might be weirdly an opportunity in here if everyone's kind of like, oh, well, hands off, like let's just stay patient and be the team we are. But like, if you just say like, hey, there's this opportunity, let's go and do it. You can still make your team better for the long term. A trade deadline deal is often viewed as like a short-term thing. And if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, that's often the case. But if you're a smarter team, like a Vegas Golden Knights, you make your trade deadline acquisitions Noah Hannafin, right? You make them guys who are like, well, they're going to stick around, right?
Yes.
You make them guys that are going to be around for a while, right? You can go back to like the Timo Meier trade for the Devils, right? Like it's a deadline deal, but like the idea is that you keep that guy around. So I think you still have to figure out and associate the right opportunity here. But I don't think it's let's keep our head down and stick to the plan. Like I said last week, I think there's a plus or minus 20% on the plan with these guys, you know? So the point is like, look, there's top six consistency that's needed. The bottom six identity is getting there, but probably still needs time. And you're right, the injuries need to shake out. And then the bottom pair trust of Jack-Eye, Struble, Engstrom, Carrier, who the hell knows. Some of it can be solved internally, like you said, and we can just be patient with it. But I think you keep an eye out and think about making a move there.
So I agree with all that. I think my line is just like, don't give up the future 2C for a temporary 2C. Don't give up Hage for O'Reilly. And back to O'Reilly, 34 years old, year 3 of 4 of his deal, $4.5 million. So really a cheap contract. So he will be sought after at the trade deadline, especially because, like I said, everybody wants to fleece Barry Trotz. It's a lot of fun. So he will expire 26, 27, same time as Gallagher, same time as Anderson, at age 36. So likely that will be the last contract he signs after that, and it'll be probably less than 4.5 and whatever. So Ryan O'Reilly's a little bit interesting, but again, I'm not trading a huge amount of stuff. The other reason, like, it's one thing to look at this from the perspective of the Atlantic, like, hey, there's an opening. But that's why I asked at the start, like, what's the goal? Playoffs or cup? Because we just witnessed the best team in the league, and the Canadiens could not match up. First period was really good. They couldn't score on them. And then the Avalanche woke up, and holy crap, it's literally an avalanche. You got buried. So there's a lesson there about what stage we're at in the build. The Avalanche are scary good. If this is the bar for true contention, wow, is it ever high. The greatest team of all time, Montreal Canadiens from 76-77. They lost 8 out of 80 games and had an .825 points percentage that season. The Nordiques, the Avalanche, they've lost a single game in regulation so far this season. So they're on pace for losing 4, half of what the greatest team of all time lost. They have an .840 points percentage, better than the Canadiens. Now, obviously, I can hear all of you at home screaming at whatever listening device you're using. The Avs are benefiting from the fact that a tie isn't always 1 point anymore. You can win in overtime. They have a single overtime win so far this season. 17 regulation wins, 1 overtime win, a single regulation loss, and then 3 of each overtime loss and shootout losses. So that's not actually helping them. Take away 1 point, they're still on pace to be better than the 76-77 Montreal Canadiens. Unreal. The pace is absurd. The Avs could have the best season for any team in this entire era of hockey. Now, I promise, this isn't just me rationalizing Colorado's slapping around of Montreal. Like, I'm not just saying, hey, the Avs are on par with the best team of all time. A 7-2 loss to them is respectable. No, this is a lesson in what a true contender looks like. And until the Canadiens are even like 60% as good as they are, a short-term move that sacrifices futures, it's not the play. It just isn't. Okay. The ultimate goal is a cup.
Let me
maybe
just push
a decade
back.
plus run, you know?
Yeah. I'll push back one last time here.
Sure.
Let me throw a scenario at you, and then we can come back to this year. Habs will make the playoffs this year, bounce in the first round, most likely, right? Consider no moves being made. They're not good enough to win a playoff round. They're 3rd in the Atlantic. They're 4th in the Atlantic. They get New Jersey in a crossover. They get Tampa in the first round. They're going to get smoked in 5, maybe 6 if they're lucky.
Yep.
Cool, whatever. All right, it's part of the growth plan, right? Sid doesn't become available. You don't want to move on from your guys. We're going to stay patient with Michael Hage. Okay. Next year comes along. Tampa's still Tampa. Maybe Boston's bounced back. Ottawa can go up a level. Habs will make the playoffs again. Say they get bounced again in the first round. You go to the year after that, which is the year we all think the window's opening, right? 27, 28.
Yeah.
The team will have made the playoffs in 3 straight seasons and gone bounced in the first round. We have seen with other franchises and other teams the pressure that mounts on you when you get bounced in the first round year after year after year after year. The Kings are feeling it right now. The Leafs have felt it in years past.
Yeah.
If the window is open this year to go out and win a playoff round and get that monkey off your back, right? Can they be good enough to win a Stanley Cup this year? Almost definitely not. And whoever comes out of the Metro is looking way stronger, and Tampa's looking way stronger. I'm making no arguments for them being a cup contender. What I'm saying is, What does winning, like we talked about last, like, wow, what does making the playoffs do to a team? What does winning a playoff round do to Cole Caulfield? Does it do to Nick Suzuki? Does it do to Slafkovsky and Demidov and Hudson?
Yeah.
And it also says, they get that initial, like, we've had playoff success. We've seen this. And you don't get to the Leaf situation where it's 6 and 7 years in. And I know that's a completely different thing. We don't have to go into it, obviously, but like,
yeah,
that's just another little wrinkle in there of when I say the door is open, the door is open to winning a playoff round. And the same way we said last year, you cannot underscore the importance of making the postseason. I also think you cannot underscore the importance of winning a playoff round. So there's that. Anyways.
Yeah, look, I can't disagree with any of that. I'm observing this as like a dental floss, forget a dental floss, like a human hair width tightrope that Team Hugo has to walk in terms of acquiring what the Canadiens need without giving up their future needs.
Yeah, I mean, nowhere in here did you hear me say Michael Hage or Jacob Fowler or Alex Zhirovsky or first round picks, right? I didn't say any of that.
That's what it's going to take to get, we were talking Ryan O'Reilly, likely. But Sid the Kid, forget those guys. You need those guys plus. So if this is a realistic conversation of who you could actually go out and get, then it is one of those guys, and I'm not interested. Now, is there a lesser guy like I will just say for the record, I don't like Kadri. Maybe he would be an interesting answer, and you're coming to this more rationally than I am, but I just remember him about 10 years ago in a Leafs jersey hitting small guys from behind, and then when a guy his size comes to talk to him, he scurries away like a little baby. That's the Kadri I remember. Yes, he's got a cup, whatever. I'm disinterested. I have a long memory for that. So I don't know, but maybe there's a lesser 2C or even 3C left-handed guy, not Christian Dvorak. Maybe there's an actual one that would not require you to give up as many assets. I haven't come across that guy yet. And if they exist, they're probably on a contender.
Right.
Who's not giving them up. So
okay,
maybe,
but
you know what? Maybe we could bottle this. We could talk about this, try and look at who else is available moving forward.
Like I said a couple times now, this is the philosophical question of the season now. It's what do you do? Should you do anything? You'll have people in the camp of don't touch it, be patient, take your time. You'll have other people saying get a damn goalie and you can do something, right?
But those people are referring to Edmonton, right?
Yeah, I mean,
get a damn goalie.
I mean, that's a legitimate concern. And then you'll have some people, I think, like me, that are more in the nuanced zone of keep your options open and don't commit hard to one option or the other, right? Like you and I have been very patient. Like, let's rebuild, let's take our time. I think it's also important to be opportunistic. And I'm just identifying the opportunity is what I'm saying of the Atlantic is weak. And that then brings the question of, hey, you've done all this good stuff. Here's your opportunity. What are you going to do about it? Do you just let it pass and say like, let's let just Ottawa finish second. It'll be Ottawa, Florida in the 2-3 and they'll kill each other. And the Habs will be in a wild card and get bounced in the first round. And that'll be it for the season, sim to end. Or do you try to do a little bit something about it and get home ice, play Ottawa in the first round, play Florida in the first round. I mean, who knows what Florida would look like by April. I'm just saying, be opportunistic. There's an opportunity. This is the discussion we're going to have until the trade deadline, really. And it's fun. And it's good that we can have this nuanced, what should they do now? Because it really identifies they are out of the very first part of the rebuild. We knew that at the end of last year. But now these are the hard conversations. When you get to level 2, it becomes more difficult. It should. It's very easy at the beginning. Hey, just suck and draft well. Cool. We did it.
Yeah.
We're at level 2 now, where it's how quickly do you try to get better? How patient can you be? At one point, do you hit the accelerator and start giving things up for other stuff? And what is that other stuff and what's that opportunity cost?
Yeah, very well said. I think it goes to show too that we've kind of flip-flopped in terms of at the beginning. I was saying what you were saying and you were saying what I was saying. A bunch of weeks in, we've basically flipped because that's how razor thin this edge is.
It is. That exactly that. It shows how
it's hard now. It's hard now. Tearing down is easy.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. And it's going to get harder. It's going to get more difficult, by the way, because when you get to 2 years from now, and it's kind of like, well, there's no more, you got to do it. You got to floor it now.
Yeah.
We'll see. Okay. Well, let's wrap the episode there. We went long, big shock, but I think it was a good way to talk about the first 2 months of the season. We've passed the fourth Thursday of November holiday in the United States, which is usually viewed as the things start to get real time. And they have. And we'll see what the Canadiens do about it over the next week or so. I think there's more. There might be 2 back-to-backs this week coming up. There's at least one.
There are 2 back-to-backs this week. This is a crazy stretch
Disgusting.
of hockey coming up. 3 weeks in a row, the Habs play 4 games. So Ottawa, Winnipeg, Toronto, St. Louis this week. And then the week after and the week after that, another set of 4 games with a bunch of back-to-backs, at least one every week, 2 of them this week. So that's going to be hard. And that's going to exhaust Marty's kind of ability to move things around. I think he's got to find chemistry rather quickly because guys are going to get tired, and the more they're not used to the guys they're playing with, the worse that's going to exacerbate it. So this will be a really interesting test for the Habs.
The one good thing for Marty is that he doesn't have to answer any questions about who's starting in net.
Yeah. This guy started last night, so this other guy's starting tonight.
We're
That's
fast forwarding
true.
for 2 weeks on those questions.
Yeah. Now, who gets what start is going to be fascinating. Ottawa or Winnipeg,
I could care
Toronto
less
or
about
St. Louis. Toronto or St. Louis is a really good one.
I couldn't care less about who gets what start. One's going to get one, the other will get the other. I always find it more of a it's more of a statement on how that team views you. The Canadians have gotten a lot of backup goalies this year. And I think that's we're not worried about this offense. I think that's what it's more about than I trust my goalie, this goalie versus the other goalie. I always view it like that.
Right.
Like Ottinger didn't play against the Canadians, right? Like it's very much like
but the Smiths still owned us. So yeah, that's a fair point. But
that's how I view
there's
it.
The other philosophy that coaches have of we're going to put our starter in against St. Louis, against Nashville, against the bad team to guarantee a win. And then if our backup can beat the slightly stronger team, great. But we're going to guarantee a win. So that's another philosophy. Maybe they're employing that. Or maybe I'm just rationalizing.
Maybe. Anyways, we'll leave it at that. You can follow us on social media at HabsLinePod. If you like what you hear, feel free to leave a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And until next Monday, go Habs.